I think maybe NetEase saw this. I think dive meta keeps people from playing this game. I think an actual strong dive keeps people from wanting to play this game. And it's not the top 1%, 2%, 3%. It's not y'all. It's everybody else. So in this video, I want to present everybody with a question. The community, you watching this video, other content creators, and even the devs, right? And let me preference this right quick. We've seen different metas on this game. Dive, Flyers, Daredevil being strong, Phoenix, Hella, of course. Poke meta is very aggressive right now. Strong supports, triple support, of course. And we see what devs, what the devs of this game, we see what they do when something is a little out of hand. We see what they do when the community doesn't like something. When dive meta was at its peak, they sat there, tweaked the game to its where that it made it easier for, supports to deal with dive. Now there's way more survivability. There's way more CC. There's way more overshields now, right? They kind of reeled in some of the dive characters. Iron Fist, he's kind of forgotten. Daredevil, they reeled him in a little bit. They'll give characters like Venom, they added like a little bit of anti-heal to Venom's kit, But largely, when there was uproar on dive, they dealt with it. But there's been a little bit of uproar on poke for the longest, and y'all haven't dealt with it. So that's my question. Why is it that poke meta is allowed to exist for as long as it has, and dive meta wasn't? Let's talk about it. Let's unpack it. Give me your answers down below. Let me know what you guys think. But before we get into the Yap session today, we just passed 250 subs on the channel. That is crazy. First of all, thank you for all the positivity, all the support that you guys give me in the comments, all the feedback, the dialogue. It really is appreciated. Thank you, seriously. And if you're brand new here, welcome. My name is Fanta. I do a lot of breakdowns and just discussion topics here on this channel revolving around Marvel Rivals because I really enjoy this game. I come from a background of just playing a lot of competitive games in general, fighting games, Apex, Halo, that kind of stuff, shooters. And I just want to see this community just be better. I want to see the game be better. I want to have a great experience for the casual players, for the sweaty players. I just want an overall just improved experience for everyone on this game. And I just want the devs to be able to hear us so they can see different, just different perspectives that people have. Because not everyone has the same perspective. My perspective is different from yours. The top 500 players' perspectives is different from, people who only play up until gold. And people who only hop on here just to play Doom matches. There's an 18v18 community, I'm pretty sure, somewhere out there. So this challenge is just for us to come together, really just unpack and, talk about different things and see how we can come out with the best solution for the game moving forward. So without further ado, let's get into it. Dive meta, right? What made dive meta so bad? Was it a skill issue amongst supports? Was it because DPS didn't peel? Was it because tanks didn't peel? Were dive tanks like, for example, Venom, Captain America, were they overpowered? And mind you, this was before Daredevil was in the game. The only dive characters we had were like Venom, Cap, Magic, Iron Fist. He's a little bit of a weird character. He's like he can brawl and dive. Who else was a dive character at that time? Spider-Man, right? So what happened? Because Angela, she wasn't in the game. What happened, right? Why was it so oppressive? It was a combination of a lot of things. And I think that dive in of itself, if you guys have ever seen like high level gameplay on this game of like top 500 play or just pro players playing against each other, dive, when it's very coordinated, is damn near impossible to really deal with, even when it's coming. Because the way that they're allowed to set up, if it's coordinated, everyone is coming together, they have the setup. The other team you get overwhelmed way too quick, because the whole concept of dive is to essentially just surround the enemy team, right? I know a lot of people think, oh yeah, you're just diving into the back line. It's less about diving, healers. It's more so about just surrounding the enemy team, because that's literally what happens. You surround the enemy team. Someone jumps into the back line they're attacking. Now your tanks are like, oh shoot. Now someone's jumping on the tanks. Someone's jumping on the duelists. And it's just causing a bunch of chaos. That's what dive meta does. It causes a bunch of chaos. It forces you to kind of like I say in football, I don't know if you ever heard the term in football when like a QB's in the pocket and he has to kind of move around the pocket. It forces people, especially supports, to kind of multitask and dance around. And it's just very hard to deal with. It's not easy to do. And a lot of players don't necessarily have the, not that they can't do it, but they don't have the consistent experience to know how to deal with it. That's why when you guys watch me stream, you know, because I learned, you know, supports, you know, I learned the strategist role because I got sick and tired of like people like, oh, well, I'm getting dove on. I was just like, okay, let me figure this out. You know, Gambit came out, Invis changes happened, learned all, you know, strategists, how to kind of get better at it. And now I understand why it's annoying, right? I get it. And I think the reason why poke meta has been allowed to exist way longer is because for the majority of the player base, right? Now, I always talk Marvel Rivals, they can't necessarily gear to the super sweats because the way top 500 players, the way Celestial Eternity players operate is completely different from the rest of the game. The other 90% does not operate the same. It's not the same thing. Ranked and Metal Ranks is not the same way it is in like GM1, Celestial 3, 2 and 1, and Eternity. It's just not the same game. It really isn't. You know, in Metal Ranks, you know, Iron Man reigns supreme. People don't look up. You play Iron Man in higher ranks, you try to go into GM, Hela is blasting you out of the sky. You're getting blasted out the sky. Okay? You're going to see a lot more Scarlet Witches down in Metal Ranks. You're not really going to see too many Scarlet Witches up in super high ranks, okay? You're not going to see too many Star-Lords that have really great aim in Metal Ranks, right? All the aiming characters in your low, like, gold, plat, they can't really aim that well. You know, for people that are actually like gold, plat, diamond level players. Now, if you're just someone that's just getting through the ranks, obviously I'm not referring to you, right? But poke meta, I think fundamentally, poke meta is just easier for the majority, that 90%. So you got like the top 1% and everything like that. You know, your guys in Celestial, Eternity, you got that high percentage of players. But then you got the other like 95, 97%. That can't really deal with dive. It's easier to play into poke meta. It just is. It's easier to kind of play. I mean, is it annoying? Yes. But what poke does, I need the devs to understand, is poke meta essentially shuts out a whole other category of characters in this game. And what doesn't really get talked about enough is how we talk about how dive is very hard to play, right? Brawl characters might as well not exist. All my rogue mains, where y'all at? If you're a rogue main, you got the Lord icon. I know you hurting right now. It's hard. I know it's hard. You queue into ranked, you're solo tanking on rogue. You see the other lineup, you're playing into double tank, Namor Hela. For some reason, your team decided to ban to ban Spider-Man and Black Panther for some reason. So you're playing into double shield, double main tank, possibly, you know, a Thor, a Groot. They got a Hela Namor with a Gambit Loki, and you're solo tanking. Brawl is just not allowed. Dive is hard, but Brawl is just not allowed to exist. It really isn't. And that's part of the reason why I like Rogue's kit, but I refuse to play her because she's difficult to play into. You guys are releasing these characters. You're shutting out whole fan bases. I like the character of Rogue. But trying to actually use her seriously in any kind of comp, it's damn near impossible. Unless the other team is just a bunch of freaking goofies. It's really not that viable. Characters like Hulk, I know they gave him a buff. I know he's a little bit better now, but Hulk has a very high ceiling. You don't see too many people just pick Hulk and just like casually be good with him. No, you have to actually be good to be a good Hulk. And you know what I mean? If you take a Hulk from like Celestial and you see a Hulk from Gold, it's a night and day difference. You have to do way more to be a great Hulk than you have to be like a really good like Emma, for example, right? And the only reason why Emma gets away in this meta is because she has a ranged ability, and she also has her diamond form and her shield that she can project to, like, you know, block off heals, block off, you know, projectiles and everything. But if there's tanks in here that fundamentally can't shield, can't really block off anything, don't have a ranged capability, Thor kind of skids by, right? Because, you know, he has his awakening form. You can launch his awakening way more now. So at least he has a ranged option. He has his hammer. and he has really decent mobility. But characters like Ben Grimm, Rogue, Cap, Hulk, at that mid-rank level, they suffer, right? Most of the player base is in that middle section. These characters suffer. Now, I know you got guys that are in, like I said, high elo players. This isn't really geared to you because that top 2%, 1%, 3%, that the game operates. You guys are just different. You're not the majority. You guys need to understand that. I've had some people talk about some, well, in Eternity, well, guess what? I know in Eternity that character is great and everything, but have you seen somebody in gold try to use Captain America? Have you seen these goofies in Diamond try to use a Captain America? No. Have you seen them try to use Hulk down here? I've seen it firsthand. I've been in GM. I've been in Celestial. I'm currently working my way through Diamond. It's like, it's a night and day difference. Certain things just don't balance. And that's why they have to balance the game around the majority. So poke meta, even though the higher you go, the more annoying it gets. Because that's the main thing. The higher you go with range comps, Poke, Phoenix, Hela, Namor, that kind of stuff, lower ranks, people might use them, but they can't aim worth a damn. I've seen Namors not play, bro. When I was doing my placement matches, I literally had a Namor on my team that placed no squids. I don't even think he understood the concept of squid. He would start the fight off by using his bubble. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't placing squids. He wasn't using his bubble. I don't know what he was doing, right? The higher you go, though, once you start getting into those Grandmaster lobbies, that's when people actually start playing a little more intentionally. So with dive, right? The thing with dive comes, since it's so oppressive, since it takes a lot, since when you execute a very strong coordinated dive, especially, it's not fun for that middle. It's not fun for the casual players in that middle section of players. It's not fun for the majority. Now, me, I'm not tripping. I would love to see a dive meta. You kidding me? I've been itching to learn Venom. Give me a reason. I could learn him in this meta, honestly. I think Venom, he can kind of live in poke meta, what's been going on the past couple seasons, but I would love to get my Lord status on Cap. I would love to get my Lord status on Venom, on Rogue. But if you think I'm going to go into my rank matches, right, trying to actually rank up, absolutely not. It's not worth it. It's too painful to actually try to play any kind of brawl or dive. It just is. You need so much to go right. You need the margin of error for dive is much like you have a small margin of error. If you screw up a combo on Daredevil, you're screwed. You screw up a combo on Spider-Man, but he has a lot of mobility, so you should be alright most of the time. But if Spider-Man has to play into a lot of counters, it sucks. BP, we all know he's useless. Captain America, you better hope they don't got a Ben Grimm on their team. You better hope you don't get chokeslammed by Emma. Mantis sleep. There's a lot of CC in this game. It's just not worth it. So, Netties, when I say this, I'm not even a big dive player. I normally play either main tank, like your Doctor Strange or Emma, your Mags, right? I could play a little off tank if I need to. I can go Thor if I really want to. I can play a hybrid like Deadpool. I can play Groot if I need to. I understand those tanks. But actually trying to go on my way to learn dive, it's painful. But on the flip side, right, I can go, let's talk about range, right? I can go Phoenix, right? The only prerequisite that you need for Phoenix, she's already a hit scan, right? So at least with Namor, you have to time, your range. You have to kind of line your shots up and everything. Mantis, you have to kind of line your shots up. She's hit scan. So as long as you know how to point and click, or you know how to operate your controller so you can just line up your shots, you're going to get a whole bunch of value out of her without even necessarily being the best, person on said character. And there's less danger because you get more value from far away. See, dive, they have to close the gap. Range, they just have to make sure that you don't close that gap. They got to keep space in between you. And that's why it's more tolerable for that middle section of people, the casuals, the people that are, in middle ranks, mid ranks and everything. Because if dive is too strong, it's going to make the people that, come on here, buy skins, it's going to make them play the game less. And Netties doesn't want that. I think it's also partially a marketing thing too. I think dive meta, I think maybe NetEase saw this. I think dive meta keeps people from playing this game. I think an actual strong dive keeps people from wanting to play this game. And it's not the top 1%, 2%, 3%. It's not y'all. It's everybody else. I think people just don't like playing into dive. We saw what happened. We had a support strike, for crying out loud. We had the most unserious thing happen on this game. We had people actually saying here boycotting playing support because of how strong dive was. And realistically, was dive too strong? Not necessarily. I still think that supports just were being a little bit too soft at the time and just didn't want. It was supports being soft, not learning how to adapt and like play into it. Positioning was terrible because I think people have gotten better, right? I think the natural progression of the community, I think everyone's gotten a little bit better since launch. But still to this day, a lot of people suck at dealing with dive, even with everything that still goes on, right? Poke comes on the other hand. Okay, oh, we have a shield tank to block it. Oh, I could play behind cover. Okay, this isn't so bad. This isn't so bad. Both sides running hella Namor and junk. Oh, this isn't so bad, you know? They like that. It keeps them on the game. If it isn't so bad, they like it. As soon as they walk out of spawn, they're getting dove by Venom, Spider-Man, Cap. Have y'all ever? I want to talk to my supports right quick. I want to see if anyone's ever experienced this. Have you guys ever been on support and you get dove by a Venom, Spider-Man, and Cap at the same time? Has that ever happened to y'all? Do you know what to do in that situation? Do you panic? Do you rage? What do y'all do? See, that's why when I transferred my main, because I used to be, I keep saying I've been a Vanguard main. I transferred, my skill set over to being a strategist main to kind of figure out what the freak is going on in my backline. Because I got sick and tired of people with no peels, and then I turn around, they're instantly dead. Now I understand why they're instantly dead. And also my support mains, I know I get on to y'all. I'm also a support main, so that's why I do get on my support main so hard, because I'm also one. I learned the role, so I understand the ins and outs. And there's a lot of accountability that strategists don't take for learning their characters, for surviving. Some of y'all get dove and just fall over immediately, like, oh, let me just pass out. It's over. It's like some of y'all don't fight. I'm on tank, so I'm used to fighting and brawling. So when I went on support, I'm like, okay, that's why I love Gambit so much, because I could look at Gambit's kit. I'm like, okay, I got so much in my kit that I can use to survive. I look at Invis, right? I'm like, okay, even before the cell shield, I'm like, okay, I got a vortex, what I'm saying? I got to push, I got to pull, if you do the little melee combo on Invis, she can push people away from her. So it's like, I got options. I can turn invisible. I can jump away. I got options, If you're positioning yourself right, you're playing close to your team, it works out even better. But some people didn't want to learn how to play better. They just wanted it to not exist. So I get both sides, because can playing against a Spider-Man get annoying? Yes. But it's also hard to actually be good on Spider-Man. Is playing a Daredevil annoying? Yes, but there's precautions you can take to deal with a Daredevil. But now we're so overtuned, everyone gets overshields. And it's not even just supports, DPS characters. Because let me tell you guys something. When duelists actually decide that they want to peel, oh my God. Have fun trying to dive. It's one thing if the supports are patty caking. It's like, okay, that's cute. But when a duelist, have y'all dealt with the Spider-Man that actually peels for his backline? Have y'all ever experienced that? Have y'all ever experienced a Moon Knight that peels for his backline? Have y'all experienced that? When DPS peel, oh, your supports aren't getting touched. Have y'all seen a Wolverine peel? Have y'all seen a Psylocke peel? DPS, I'm just saying, y'all can get some free kills if y'all turn around. That's all I'm saying. Y'all can get some free kills. And I know some characters, dive characters, I say Spider-Man, but, most of the time they're more busy trying to, dive the enemy team. So they're not necessarily going to be in proximity. That's why we always say, okay, tanks are probably going to be within proximity. Characters like Bucky, Hawkeye, characters like, Mr. Fantastic, they're going to be more so in range naturally to your backline. So I get that, but I'm just saying, though, when a DPS decides that they really want to peel, It get ugly. I'm just saying. If y'all haven't experienced that, I really hope you do. So going forward, though, what would it take for us to have either a balanced meta? Because we need some kind of, I know some people refer to it as checks and balances, right? If you guys don't know, like the little triangle flow of how stuff works, brawl counters dive, right? The reason why brawl, I'm not saying like if you play a brawl character, you're instantly just going to beat a Spider-Man. There is skill expression somewhere in the middle. It's not just like rock, paper, scissors and you just freaking lose. It's not that extreme on this game. And that's a good thing by the devs because you guys make it towards where it's not like a hard counter necessarily. Spider-Man's can play into Namor's, you know. Dives, poke can counter dive to an extent, even though it might be a little overtuned at times. But really, it's just a lot of CC in it. If there wasn't as much like crowd control in this game, I don't think dive would be as unbearable, honestly. And I think that's just part of it. You know, kind of calm the CC down. I think that's a step in the right direction. But brawl counters dive because brawl characters can sustain a fight longer than dive characters. You know, have you seen a Spider-Man trying to fight a rogue? Doesn't always end too well for the Spider-Man. Not saying the Spider-Man can't win, but have you seen, you know, a BP try to play it into a Ben Grimm? Doesn't work out too well. Ben Grimm can sustain a fight longer than Dive. Dive wants to get up in there and get out. Brawl wants to get in there and stay in there. So Brawl counters Dive. Dive, on paper, is supposed to counter Poke. But see, with this game, we're kind of overtuned with overshields, with healing and everything, stun CC, that when you do kind of dive, you're getting hit, you're getting slowed, you're getting vortex pulled, you know, you're getting you're getting grounded, you know, don't let Bucky throw one of his charges at you. Now you can't move. You're getting silenced by a Namor. It's a lot of stuff going on. You're dealing with turrets, anti-heal. It's just a lot that works against you, right? And a more balanced sense, if this game was balanced, what it would be is when, if you perfectly time your dive, right? Or at least you have enough advantages going with you when you do dive, you're going to have the advantage against Poke. The problem is, if you do dive and you make a slight error, right? It's just hard to get. It's hard to get an advantage in Poke because there's so many stuns, so many slows, it's so much stuff that you have to bait out as a dive character. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna dive that Loki and make him bait runes. No, you gotta dive the Loki, but you also gotta deal with the invis that can shield him. You gotta deal with the Hela that can stun you if she decides to turn around. That's the thing. So it's like, oh, can you bait out 3 different abilities from 3 different people? Naturally, you kind of want your team to kind of be in like a full fight, but seeing that most people, since dive is just so unbearable to play with, it's not really too many coordinated dives going on in the first place. So now you're kind of forced to not play a whole freaking subset of characters in this game. And that's a problem, Netties. We don't want that. We don't want that. You don't want that for your game. You got people that like certain characters and they can't play them. That's not a good thing. We want to attract more people. You know what I'm saying? It's really a ranged meta at the moment. So how do we fix it? How can we get to the point where dive and to a certain extent brawl is allowed to properly exist? And also to follow up on like the little triangle thing, Poke counters brawl because brawl has to close the gap a whole bunch. But like I said, there's a bunch of characters that are dive that are also brawl characters. So like brawl in this game is kind of weird. You know, it's a little bit of like a hybrid blend. Some are pure, like you got like, you know, Rogue and Thing. Those are brawl, but Daredevil, Magic, they can kind of intertwine. You know what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind. So what do we have to do as a community, as developers, as content creators? What do we have to do to be able to have a system to exist where all the characters, right? And part of the other problem is that we have too many characters. You guys, okay, we've all seen tier lists, right? We've seen lists where it's just like, oh, this is S tier, this is A tier. We need to get to the point with this game where certain characters are all in line with each other. We need more characters. Nothing necessarily needs to be super SS. Most of the characters need to be around A, B, like A and B tier. And also C, it needs to be more ABC and less SS. Like, you know, it needs to be more A, B rank and less S rank and like D and F rank. You know what I'm saying? No character should be completely useless in this game. That's so crazy to me. You have a whole subset of characters that it's like if you play and people are like, yeah, that's a freaking throw pick. That is crazy. Blade shouldn't be considered a throw pick. That's crazy. So one, balance. We need to get to a point where everyone is kind of like in this neutral setting where, okay, this character is A tier, this character is B tier. You know, we got some characters that might be C tier, but if you play them a certain right, you can get a lot of value out of, right? And I think that will be even better. But one of the steps that you kind of have to go towards, and I don't know if they'll directly fix it, but you have to some degree, if you really want dive to be existent in this game to some capacity, even brawl to be existent, you have to reel in the CC. I know we talk about Hella, I know we talk about Phoenix, but you have to reel in the crowd control on this game. You have to reel it in. I don't know what you do. I'm not saying take abilities away, right? But you have to deal with the crowd control aspect. Maybe release characters that don't have crowd control. Because I don't understand why Elsa needs a trap. That is insane. I know you have to place it at a certain time, but that is insane that Elsa actually has a freaking CC ability. That's crazy. Maybe Bucky doesn't need 2 charges. Maybe Bucky doesn't need an ability that freaking grounds you, right? You know? Maybe we need less abilities that slow you. Maybe Invis's shield shouldn't slow when you walk through it, right? Just an idea. I'm not saying it's, you know, like an end-all, be-all perfect setting, but I'm just saying, just throwing stuff out there, right? Maybe if you want to give Hella, you know, a relocation tool, maybe she doesn't really need a super strong stun, right? But I'm just saying that for example. Because have y'all tried to dive a Phoenix? Oh my god. Maybe less characters need an ability where you just pop an ability and they get instant overshield. Elsa, Bucky, I'm looking at those two. Bro, Elsa just launches an ability and she gets overshield. Bucky launches an ability and he gets overshield and I have to get reloads his gun. Why? It makes it difficult to dive characters like that. You dive onto an Elsa, she's one shot. It's like, okay, boom. Oh, dash, overshield. Dash again, overshield. Combo. Still doing damage to you. Backpedaling, doing a bunch of damage. Oh, dash again. Still has overshield. You can't touch her because you're a melee character. It's hard for you to close that gap. So I think going forward, when they design these characters, probably keep in mind trying to keep the characters in line without them being so broken. They just have constant overshield, right? You know, they can just get overshield for free. At least if Bucky gets overshield, make it to the point where he gets overshield because he landed an ability, right? That's skill expression. If he lands an ability, okay, he gets overshield. Cool. I can respect that. But when he just launches it, misses, it's just like, instead of Elsa, you know, dashing and getting an overshield, okay, make it to us where, okay, she dashes. If she hits a headshot, okay, now she gets an overshield. And the shield builds up over time. Not just like this instant boom, you know? It doesn't make sense because it makes it, how they're designed makes them very hard to like play into, to play against. If you want dive and brawl to exist, you have to reel in a lot. It's a lot of stuff. Triple support, or well, it's not even just triple support, right? Damage is overtuned in this game. And since damage is overtuned, supports are overtuned because you have to have some kind of way to deal with the damage. So some kind of way you gotta figure out, okay, how do we reel in the damage? You reel in the damage, okay, now you can start reeling in the supports. Once you start reeling in the supports, let's start designing characters that aren't necessarily, oh, we pop an ult, everyone lives. Let's start designing DPS characters that aren't, oh, we pop our ult, everything dies. Let's start adjusting the philosophy behind how we design these characters. I'm not saying like, you know, don't make fun characters, but let's just keep certain stuff in mind. You know? Gambit pops his ult, everyone on the enemy team, unless you have Gambit ult or some kind of like hard timing, like maybe you time your Doctor Strange ult right, maybe you pop an M ult, you're able to catch like the Gambit or something. Maybe you get a mag ult off and you're able to hit the Gambit. People just fall over. And it's harder for the mid-ranked players to counter Gambit. And that's what also, it's already bad at high rank, right? It's even worse in low rank. Especially when you're going through like your placements and there's no ban phase. Bro, low-key Gambit in gold is hilarious. I climbed through gold so dang quick. It's so, oh shoot, I'm over here knocking stuff over. But that's all I'm saying. But you guys let me know what you think about this, right? I'm not saying like, everything I said needs to happen, but I'm just throwing ideas out, just, stuff that we can speculate on just to kind of get the conversation going. Let's design characters that aren't so high mobility but get all this overshield. Was not design these characters that have like 20 different ways to slow you, stun you, push you. I'm looking at you, Invis, right? Let's reel it in. And, let's not design DPSs that got 20 different things they can do to freaking murk you and everything. Let's reel it in. And then once we reel that aspect in, now we can get to better character design. Now we can start getting better tanks in the game, because it's hard for tanks. The cool tanks that do exist, like Rogue, right? Like Thor, they're hard to play with because of how aggressive the meta is. I would love to learn Hulk. I'm not learning Hulk in this meta. You guys, you lost me. No, it's too much CC. Why? I like Angela. I can't play her in ranked. I get CC too much. It's too many characters I gotta ban. I gotta ban Invis. I gotta possibly ban Bucky, Emma. It's too much going against you when you play certain characters, bro. I would love to play Cap. I gotta do too much to get value out of him. Nah, I'm good. Thor is like the only tolerable one, and that's because of his mobility that he has. And even then, imagine trying to solo tank on Thor against a really good frontlining poke comp consistently. I know there's Thors that do it. Relax. I'm not talking about y'all, but I'm just talking about for the general. It's not fun. It's not. But let me know what you guys think down below, man. How can they go about to fix this problem, and what can we do as a community? I know one thing us content creators can do as a community is either, make guides teaching people how to like deal with dive, how to be better supports, how to actually, react as a team when it comes to like people diving. What do you do? Because I have a lot of people, I got friends, they don't know what to do when they get dove on. They actually just don't know. They really don't. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to position themselves. They don't know how to fight. And if you do die, I'm not mad that you died. I'm mad that you just died instantly. I'm mad that you didn't try, because by the time I get to you, at least do enough that by the time I do get to you, if you do die, I can just kill the guy. And now we're in a 5-on-5 instead of a 5v6. Do enough towards where that by the time your team does get to you, they can either save you or it's a 5v6 situation, that kind of stuff. We got to teach more. We got to improve our communities. We got to help everyone get better. That's the only way it improves. It's this whole, oh, you should know already. The only time I say, okay, you should know is when I'm in a freaking Grandmaster lobby. And I'm just like, are you dead ass? Like, we're in GM1 and you don't know what that character, you don't know how to play more than one support? Really? You don't know that when you're Invis standing on the cart, it doesn't move the convoy? Really? It's too much of that going on. And then content creators, of course, we can all contribute to this. Netties, they can see our feedback and they can adjust on the fly. I know it's not necessarily like an easy answer, but we can take steps throughout the seasons where, season by season, patch by patch, we get to this point, because poke comp didn't happen overnight. It happened season by season, patch after patch, nerf after nerf, buff after buff. It's going to be the same thing for us to get a balanced meta. It's going to come same way, season, patch, buff, nerf, tweak, add-on. It's going to be the same process. So we have to understand that it's not going to happen overnight. We can't just shoot Hella and Phoenix. Okay, we can't just do it. You can't just kill that whole player base. You know what I'm saying? But we got to reel them in. But that's it for today's video, you guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like down below. Let me know what you guys think. But till next time, it's been Fanta, and I'll see you in the next video, man.